We are about to kick off the 2026 UFL season in just 2 short days in Louisville. You got 8 teams, all tied for first place. Which 4 teams will remain undefeated? Get your popcorn ready. You know why? Because the Bottom Line podcast starts now.
And that's the bottom line. You want a war? You're going to get one.
The cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
Are we all here? Testing 1, 2, 3.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey, Brett.
Week one.
Week 1 is finally here. Sorry for the little late start. Had some technical difficulties. The IT guy that we pay big bucks to is out in cornshucker land trying to shoot those little birds that got little feathers and run around and gobble. So he's going to try and join us a little bit later, but until he gets with us, we're just going to have to make do without him. I think that to get started with, I think I'm going to put Brett in charge, and I am going to call up his rankings and his last final rankings before we go live with the week 1 kickoffs. And I think I'm going to go get some popcorn ready because I think Brett and KJ might go at it a little bit here. But
I'm too tired tonight.
All right.
let's go ahead and pop those bad boys up here if I can find it. You wouldn't believe it. I loaded so much stuff on tonight that you would not believe it.
$5 you didn't load the power rankings.
There we
There
go.
they are.
There we go. Take it away, Brett.
Talk you soon.
Well, I told you on last week's show there would be some major changes, especially up at the top. Still got DC at the head of the class. You got their core back. You got their head coach back. OC, DC. To be the man, you got to beat the man. And right now, I still have them at number 1 kicking off this weekend. Number 2, I moved St. Louis from number 3 up to number 2. Man, they're just so loaded in so many positions that I really think they've got the best front 4 in the league. They've got a great home field advantage and crowd. I'm looking for big things out of St. Louis this year, and I had Birmingham at 2, dropped them all the way to 4. There's just too many unanswered questions. I'm real skittish about our front 4 on defense. Brand new coaching staff, fresh head coach. We go to St. Louis this year again. We start off 3 road games in a row. Louisville Friday, at Houston, then at St. Louis. That's a tough schedule. So I've dropped them a couple spots. Orlando. Yep, I've had Orlando hanging around between 3 and 5 all along. I think that Coach Beck, I mean, the job he's done in St. Louis those 3 years, they were either in the playoffs or borderline playoff team every year. He's got a great record. He's put together a good staff. I really like some of his pieces on both sides of the ball. Definitely don't sleep on Orlando. They've been preseason in my top 4 all along. Let's go down to the Dallas Renegades. Got some big news today. That is that Austin Reed was named the starting quarterback over Luis Perez, the king of spring. Wow, didn't see that coming. I know that Eric had mentioned it during camp. I just never thought with him, doing what he's done in previous seasons, leading the league in passing last year, I just did not see that happening. But I expect Perez and Smith to both play. Interesting, very interesting.
You know what? Since you bring that up, I just as well play that. I don't have the actual video, but I have the audio. So I'm going to go ahead and play from the presser today, courtesy of the UFL. Alan Alford asked the question to Coach Neuheisel about the quarterback situation. Here's what he had to say.
So that's what he had to say.
If it's playing on your end, Ed, we can't hear it. You're going to have to cast it no matter what to the stream in order for it to broadcast.
Okay, just forget it.
All right.
He said,
IT difficulties.
Eric's taking a pay cut. That's all I got to say.
Love it.
You better get like 15 turkeys out there in corn chucker land because
Every member of the show gets a turkey, Eric, or you're fired.
I mean, Columbus Aviators at 6. I've had them near the bottom. I'm feeling a little bit better about Columbus. I've watched some film. I've heard some things from camp. Got some ex-Michigan Panthers on that squad. They look to be extremely physical. Don't sleep on the Aviators getting in the postseason for UFL 3.0. All right, Louisville Kings. We'll see. We'll see. It's going to be it's going to be a wild Friday night. Sellout crowd is expected at Linfield in Louisville, around 15,000 or so. It's going to be an exciting atmosphere. I cannot wait. We're just 2 nights away, guys. Just 2 nights away. And again, this is just my opinion. What do I know? There's always some surprises in there. So one of these teams that's in the bottom 4, I can almost bet money they will be in the playoffs. Which one? Good luck. I don't know. Most of these teams seem to be pretty even, especially with the roster shuffling in the offseason. Can't wait. So many unknowns. I dropped the Gamblers down to 8. I hope I'm wrong there because just to get that fan base back, get Houston back in the fold, in the attendance sector where they need to be and should be, we need Houston to have a playoff run this year. Still, I'm worried about Summerlin and head coach. They got Henderson starting. I mean, it seems like we've seen this movie before. I think you're going to have a physical on both sides of the ball, offense, defense lines of scrimmage, and a lot of power running, very similar to what you saw with the Houston Gamblers of the USFL. I hope not. I hope it's a little more wide open for them. That's what I think that's what the fan base and everybody wants. We shall see. But again, this is my week 1 power ranking. DC, St. Louis, Orlando, Birmingham, Dallas, Columbus, Louisville, and H-Town, Houston. That's what I got. What do y'all think?
Well, Marty comments that he thinks you're tired
I am
because if you put Birmingham 4th, you've got to be tired. That's what he says.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. You know, we lost a couple pieces in camp on the defensive line. I'm worried defensively, and I'm worried about the 3 road games to start the season. And we've got a first-time head coach. There's so many unknowns. Now, on paper, we've probably got the best offense in the league. And that's from the offensive line, the wide receivers, running backs. I mean, we're loaded. But you got to play defense too. There's special teams, and there's just so many unknowns. If Birmingham didn't have that brutal 3-game road stretch to start the season, I would have probably left them at number 2. But I just couldn't. There's just a lot going against them. And then I mentioned they got to go to St. Louis for the 2nd straight year. Yeah, don't know how that happened, but it did. So I had to jump Birmingham with St. Louis, and Beck's a proven solid coach, no matter what, you know, a lot of the critics say. I mean, he's got them to the playoffs or right there at it all 3 seasons. So that's where I'm at. But, offensively, Birmingham could be electric this season. We'll see.
So what do you think, KJ? What's your reaction?
I mean, I'm just generally frustrated, but if Brett could contextualize his context for dropping us the 1 slot, I know we were already low to begin with when the first rankings came out, and I can't hate on it too much, but I don't know. Looking at certain key parts, I would say, which obviously, you know, anybody can nitpick any team's rosters, but I'll speak, I guess, more specifically to our week 1 matchup. I think Houston holds the edge in the wide receiving core. I've got both rosters here, kind of perusing both Dallas's squad and Houston. Not to say that the Renegades don't have any notable players. They've even got our guy Emmanuel Butler from last year. Obviously, being a Houston alum, and I'm a big Greg War fan, even though he wasn't necessarily a huge standout in San Antonio last season. I think he did enough as kind of a slot guy that it warranted them picking him up. And then they've got Deontay and Tyler Vaughn both returning from, I guess, last year. So, I mean, I just, with our roster, we've got, you know, 3 of our top 5 returning receivers from last season. And then to kind of top it off, if you will, I think we also got Braylon Sanders from DC, Kirkland from San Antonio, and Loxley from Memphis. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better wide receiving core for the most part. I'm very happy with what we've got there. Really, I think to Brett's point, which I will concede, since I don't know the guys from Adam, I think I kind of spoke on this last week. I don't know where our running back room ranks because I don't know any of these guys. And none of them have really had any UFL experience. So it's hard to speak to, you know, what their kind of disposition is or what their product will be on the field come game day. Hopefully we get a standout guy between Marcus Yarns and Jalen White. Those are the 2 I know that are, you know, I guess at least have some, I think, minimal maybe NFL exposure experience, but we'll see. I don't know. It's just hard to say. So I agree with Brett. I mean, obviously we're in a very small league of 8 teams. The parity between one squad and the next is, I mean, fingernails. You're going to see that week to week as we go through these games. A lot of them are going to be 1 possession or, you know, less from the standpoint of a field goal kick, now that it can be even up to 4 points, depending upon the situation. So, I mean, to say that there's a big disparity between number 1 and number 8, I wouldn't necessarily concede that. I will say this, in this new of a league, and especially with so many new coaches at the helm and new cohesive, you know, units, both on the player roster side and on the coaching staff side. The one thing I do think we won't see, or at least this will be my prediction. I know Houston, the Roughnecks of, you know, our 2024 year in Rice really struggle to pull out notches on the win column. While, I can't say that this power ranking is totally fictional right now with perfect prediction, I don't think you're going to see a team lose that many games through the course of the year, at least in my opinion. I think you'll have greater parity this season because of that diversity and nuance with having completely new coaching staffs and people really having to still gel even beyond the small window that we've had already with spring camp. So we'll see how it plays out.
Speaking of new coaches, this come out. We got 4 new coaches.
And you are right, Chris. I apologize. I forgot that we traded Sanders back. I was not a fan of that trade, but potentially we need, that's the other, I guess, unknown I would stay beside a running back room, not to elongate my pitch, but our offensive line is obviously the biggest thing that I think will determine our offensive proficiency aside from play calling. So
I don't know what to tell you guys. I'm having, I continue to have technical difficulty. There we go. I don't know. The computer is in slow motion tonight. There must be something in the water. But there's your 4 new head coaches having their debut weekend. Ted Ginn with Columbus, A.J. McCarron with Birmingham, Ricky Prohl with St. Louis, and Chris Redmond with Louisville. Should say that right. Louisville.
Man, down here we say Louisville. With that accent.
So if I can get it up here quick, Brett, we're gonna get into something else that you wanted to make a prediction on. We know that you've been hard on your power rankings all spring, but now it's time for a little bit of an attendance prediction from Brett. So let's put up what he's predicting for this season for each of the 8 teams. And then if I can get it to come up, I'm going to put on what the attendance has been in 24 and 25 to see what kind of a difference that would make. So let's pop this bad boy up for Brett. There we go.
Here we go. I've already had some people critiquing me on this, and this subject was spring football. Chad is a co-host with us during the college and NFL season. Not a big spring football fan yet, but we're getting him come around. He's in a chat with us, and I've mentioned I was going to do an attendance prediction, and he even mentioned in our chat that well that'll get some people passionate. I think other than expansion talk, attendance talk is what really raises the hair on people's arms and necks during the spring football season. I took some numbers from last season. I follow social media and reactions very closely from all teams. I've looked at current ticket sales. I've also looked at potential playoff teams, and then you've got to factor in weather. There's so many things here. But where we were at last season, like Ed had mentioned, I think was around 12.5. I've got us increasing by quite a bit this year to around 14.7 total. Of course, St. Louis toting the load still. Hopefully we'll have some markets continue to gain traction and try to make themselves respectable. But these numbers are very doable. I did this last night, and I went back and forth with Chat GPT and analyzing what I was saying and giving me, good feedback as I'm talking to whatever I'm talking to, And I thought, I'm pretty much right on point. I ended up adjusting that today by what my average by from about 15.5 to 14.7, and these are very realistic numbers. DC at 14.7, they're the defending champion. I think their attendance will grow from last season, which was around 12 or 13, somewhere in that ballpark. Columbus, it's a new team. Ticket sales look good. I think their attendance is going to really hinge on, unfortunately, the results on the field because it's year one. You don't want a Memphis situation to where you're horrible 3 years in a row and expect to pack the stadium. So I'll give the Showboats a shout out on that. Orlando, they did 11 or 12 in XFL 2022 with the Guardians and had a very porous team. I expect a lot better quality team this season. I think ticket sales have gone pretty good with their marketing, their halftime show for the first game. So I've got them at 13.5. Also got Louisville around 13.5. Now, their stadium only holds about 15,000, and I don't think there'll be 20 tickets left at kickoff. If they have any type of walk-up crowd whatsoever Friday night, it's a sellout, which is a fantastic sign. Birmingham, there's some real good signs of positivity. Look, they almost averaged 12,000 2 years ago. Had a big dip last year. Mother's Day 11 o'clock game did not help matters. I actually took that out of the equation, and I think our average was over 11,000 last year. So this is not out of the realm of possibility. Right now, I know for a fact if they don't sell another ticket, they've got almost 14,000 sold for the opening game. But Birmingham over the years has been notorious for a huge walk-up crowd. Usually 25% of our crowd is a walk-up crowd in Birmingham. I don't know why that is. That's where we're at. Houston, I expect them to really come back with some fury. I like the new branding. I think a lot of your old-timers remember it and followed it back in the 80s with the original USFL. I think that helps. They're in a new stadium. Ticket sales look better already than what they were last year. Dallas, I'm not going to lie, with the Renegades, I'm real worried about them. They've had a similar situation to Houston. The constant rebranding or re-logoing every other year. I think they're going through 3 uniforms in 4 seasons now. And they have missed the playoffs the last 2 years. And let's face it, where they had been playing at Choctaw Stadium was not a football stadium. It was not football friendly. This new soccer venue, I've checked it out. Was it Toyota Stadium, whatever it's called, in Frisco? I think if they do things right and they're competitive, I think they could really grow and maybe average about 12 this year. I'm not. The preliminary ticket sales have got me worried. I think they got some work to do in Dallas, but overall, I think if you told Rapoli we could go from 12.5 to almost 15 this year, I don't think he would be necessarily unhappy with that. And I do think when we go back at the end of the season, I want to compare. I think I'm going to be pretty close on these, and hopefully I'm way under, but I think these are going to be pretty accurate.
I'll say this much for Dallas, to your point, Brett, someone who used to live there way back before Frisco and the Plano area blew up to as big as it is now. I was there pre-2001, basically, and it looked like a bunch of rural farmland compared to what it is today, being an urban paradise. And I think just in that suburb alone, if Rapoli gets really intentional with local marketing, they could easily sell out that venue every week. It's not a large venue, and I know the Frisco market fairly well from when I lived there. That's a very easy place to get, I think, a quick ROI on return just from a local marketing standpoint, even if you only focused on that one suburb area.
Right.
So that's just my personal opinion.
So looking at the prior seasons, in 24, it was just over 13.5 average attendance across the board. Again, we take out St. Louis from the equation because they're kind of an anomaly that kind of skews the numbers. But if you take the other 7 cities that were involved in the UFL in 2024, attendance was just over 13.5. We saw that attendance to drop a little over 12.5. We lost about 1,000 last year compared to 24. So Brett's prediction, if it holds true, is going to be a nice sizable jump for him of, just over 2,200 fans. So I think they'd have to be happy with that, especially, once again, starting up new franchises in 3 different locations.
Well, I've heard through some of the quote unquote insiders and people I've talked to, where the league and Mike Rapoli really wants to be this season I can tell you without a doubt I know the number, and hopefully I'll get to ask him in person this season. But I trust in what I'm told, and it's 15,000 is where they want to be this year, and that's right there where I've got them basically. I would be floored if we don't have a better attendance this season than in year one. And year one was 13,500. So I think the 14,500 to 15,000 is absolutely doable. I see a lot more activity online in the UFL groups, on their team pages, on X than what I did 2 years ago. And last season, I think a lot of that had to do with the whole players union mess that just lasted and went on for 6-8 weeks, and getting the new players deal signed. That's the last thing spring football needs, is any type of negative news like that. And I think it really it frustrated and angered quite a few of the fans from what I read. So I think we're in a great spot going into year 3.
So what I want to hit next, before we start diving into the games, is I know that Chris Tisdale, he's a DC fan that's been working on tiers for our show. Want to thank him again for doing that. He's already supplied us with quarterbacks and running backs the last couple of weeks. This week we have his wide receiver tiers. And again, the tiers don't necessarily represent rankings. They're just basically the wide receivers that are on rosters right now and where he sees them. So let's pop that up. And it's probably going to take up the whole screen, so we're going to have to go without seeing Brett for a few minutes.
I don't think that's going to hurt anybody's feelings.
So Chris has made basically 4 different tiers, one being deep threat, another being physical, one being playmaker, and another one being the slot. And either one of you have any initial comments? I know you're probably just seeing the list that I just popped up. But
tier 2, it's big news today. Adams out of Memphis for Louisville. He was put on injured reserve. He will not be active against Birmingham Friday night.
Yeah, that's gotta hurt. Never helps to get season-ending injuries before you even get a chance to start. So.
Yeah, I don't know how long he's out for. I don't know the details, but he will not be active Friday night for the Kings.
So it looks like, it looks like you've got several wide receivers from DC. I know DC is really happy with their wide receiver room. There's quite a few receivers there from Birmingham. I know that they're really excited to see what their wide receiver room can do. Speaking on behalf of St. Louis, Hakeem Butler, of course, he's always been a very physical receiver. I think that his talent has not been truly shown for the Battlehawks because Coach Beck was always so pro-run versus passing the ball that I think that a lot of the meat was left off the table the last couple of years, so I'm excited to see what he can do. Another one, Ja'Cour Pearson, being a slot guy. Please, St. Louis, run a slant from now. Run a couple slants to Ja'Cour Pearson and see what happens.
Not against Birmingham, just anyone else, not Birmingham.
Houston concurs that play strategy with our wide receiver core.
Yeah, at FanFest on Saturday, I had the opportunity to talk briefly with Coach Prohl, and I said, promise me the game plan is still to put the ball in the air. He just looked at me and he grinned and he said, yeah, don't you worry about that. Well, I got you covered. So I think that, the wide receiving core, although they don't have the real big star power, you're talking about a group that's been together now for God, the really the core of that wide receiver group has been together now for the third season. So Ja'Cour Pearson and Blake Jackson, of course, come from Seattle, but they've been with the Battlehawks now for a couple of years, and Hakeem Butler's been there for the duration. Gary Jennings has been around for some time. What do you think, Brett? What's Birmingham's wide receiver room looking like? I know that you're pretty high on them as well.
No, they're absolutely loaded. And I love Chris. Chris is a good guy, and I'd love to have him on the show. But I know with his line of work, he's up in the air all the time. But come on, Chris. You got more DC guys on that top tier than Birmingham and St. Louis. Come on, man.
As Albert Pujols would say, come on, man.
Come on, man. Look, DC's got to look. I've got them number one in my power rankings. But when you got 97, or hold on, you got 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. You got 24 players on here, wide receivers. And 23 of them is DC players. I consider that to be a bit of a bias. Call me crazy.
Yeah, but it's like Chris says, and you got to give him accolades for this. He made this up 2 weeks before the cuts, and no one was cut off this list. So
there were some trades, but no releases.
Hey. Chris is great for football. He's great for the show. I might be giving him a little bit of a hard time, but I've got mad respect for St. Louis's wide receiver room, and I'm sorry. Look, I'm a defensive guy, and I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Birmingham is absolutely loaded at wide receiver. I know they released one guy that I can't remember if he got picked up yet, or we were kind of floored he got released, but you've only got so many roster spots. You got 50 to a roster or whatever. But look, it's definitely it's crazy how some teams seem to have a little bit better position group than others. But again, you've got a lot of new players in the league this year, so there's going to be some. That's what's so exciting about it. You never know. Come week 1 or week 2, you're like, man, that's a dude. That's a guy that's going to lead this team. And, going into this, you think but we don't have a clue. And so many of these guys are on new rosters, new quarterbacks, new coordinators. Again, 4 new head coaches out of 8. It's and I can't wait for Friday night. It's going to be an exciting weekend of football. But Chris, you take off the DC Defender glasses, put down the beer snake. And I think you might have went a little over and above on DC, but for the most part, you got a good list there.
So KJ, here's what Chris says about Houston. He said he likes Houston as a fringe playoff team.
Yeah,
me too.
So having said that, why don't you kind of get into the wide receiving core for Houston that you know?
I mean, I'll speak, I guess, semi to the Columbus folks too. I think he's got Kiki right on par. I would kind of put him in a bridge point between being a deep threat and physical because he is so tall. But he definitely, I understand his categorization there for Kiki being one of our old, ex-alums from last season. I like the fact, kind of once again, nitpicking the roster components between teams, that we have more playmakers than Dallas does. So that makes me happy and more reinforcing my optimism for this weekend's slate and matchup. But Justin Hall is one of my favorites. He definitely was a scrappy player for us last season, kind of played the slot. I think he was the one that, in some cases ran the ball for us too. So he kind of played a dual, running back, wide receiver role. If I remember correctly, it was either him or one of our other guys, but I believe it was him. So, I mean, he's definitely, multifaceted in his functionality, in my opinion. John Trey, I think most folks who watch San Antonio saw what he could do on the field. Definitely an electric guy. Playmaker is a perfect designation for him, and I'm very happy that we have him on our team this year. It'll be interesting to see what transpires. I'm not as familiar with Jalen Cropper, but the fact that he's got some, NFL playing experience just makes me that more optimistic that he'll produce on the field come game day, week to week. The only ones I guess that he doesn't have on here, which I get to Brett's point, you can only fit so many guys on a sheet when you got 24 plus. That's the tip of the iceberg, I guess, when it comes to designating all the wide receivers in the league. But I mean, I don't know. Loxley would probably be the only other one that I would put a lot of notation on, him or Merritt, because they definitely did good things for us last season. Merritt did, at least, and I'm glad we've got Loxley from Memphis. I don't know if he was their highest producing wide receiver for the Showboats last year, but I know he definitely produced. So having him in the mix of things, I would kind of probably put him as a playmaker as well, or a slot guy potentially. But we'll see how they get positioned on the field. So
Robert makes the comment, I can't believe you left off Frank Darby. Remember that name, folks. He's going to be a huge target this season.
Yeah, Robert's a good member of the UFL fans group, and I agree with Robert. Calm down, Robert. Chris had to put all 97 of the DC receivers on here.
Well, I'll put this up. I'll put this up because he's kind of calling bullshit on you, Brett. Chris is saying Birmingham has 5 wide receivers on this list, more than DC.
I'm just picking at you, Chris. I'm just look. He don't know me. I ask KJ. I poke and poke until you snap, and then I just laugh at you. That's what I do.
Now, one of these days, you're going to open your front door, and there's going to be someone standing there saying, "This is courtesy of KJ," and he's gonna bitch slap the hell out of you.
Well, if Brett knows anything, if Houston freaking gets in the top half of the league this year and beyond, he's not going to hear the end of it from me for the next 3 seasons, because he likes to kick a dead horse till it's bludgeoning and bleeding all over the floor. So we'll give him a piece of his own medicine back with zero hesitation.
I'll be happy for Houston. I really will. And you think I'm being funny, but no, I mean,
I know you will.
No, I would, dude. I'm telling you what, they go to the playoffs, they got 15, 20,000 in the stands. It'll bring me back to XFL 2020. I'm all for it.
100%. Yeah, I think it needs to be a pairing of local marketing and positive production on the field for us to really build what is sustainable for Houston.
Yeah.
So.
And that's why we need parity, guys. That's why we don't need no 0-10, 1-9, 2-8 teams. Yeah. I'm good with everybody going into week 9, 4-4. And let's have 3 or 4 games decide playoff spots in week 9 and 10. That's what, man, I'm telling you what, it would blow it up. It really would.
Well, let's go ahead and take a break and hear from our sponsor, Wild Sun Winery and Brewing Company. And when we come back, we are going to dive in to the first game, kicking off Friday night, Birmingham at Louisville. We'll be right back. Come on. First game, Birmingham at Louisville. Louisville kind of put this out the last couple days, kind of letting everybody know that there's less than 400 seats left for opening game, and you either put up or shut up if you want to see them play. So that's got to be exciting news to see that opening night, the game being played before a full house, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's awesome. And to bring one of the big spring football names, for the first game, to bring Birmingham in by Battle of the Ponies. I hope Mike Rapoli will be there Friday night, but I got a sneaky suspicion he's going to be following his St. John's Storm in the Sweet 16 Friday night, which Alabama plays Michigan at 6:30 in the Sweet 16, and Birmingham and Louisville kick off at 7?
Not to toot the Bottom Line Crew's horn, but if you follow the Bottom Line at all, you know who all of our favorite college teams are. You got Houston, KJ's Houston in the Sweet 16. You got Brett's Alabama in the Sweet 16. You got Eric's Iowa State in the Sweet 16. You got Chad's Nebraska Cornshuckers in the Sweet 16. And you got my beloved by all Iowa Hawkeyes in the Sweet 16, knocking off one of the pre-tournament favorites to repeat as champion, Florida Gators, Gonski. So all 5 of us have all 5 of our teams still alive. So next week on the show, we might have to break out the college fight songs for whoever's left. It'd take too long to do 5 of them. So just know,
I hope all 5 are still in it.
Just know, we talk football, but we know a thing or two about basketball too. So we know who to cover. Okay, let's talk about Birmingham coming to Louisville. I had the opportunity, and Eric was a part of it as well. We had the opportunity to sit in on a presser yesterday, and Eric asked Coach AJ McCarron a question, and courtesy of the UFL, I'll let you guys listen in.
Eric with the Bottom Line. We know you know how to prepare as a player, but talk to us now as a coach, what the difference is in preparing for a game, especially your first one.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, there's not much difference. Listen, there's going to be a learning curve for every coach in this deal from just some of the rule changes, not being able to punt once you cross the 50. It's basically 4-down territory at all times, unless, you think you're in field goal range. But even when I was playing quarterback, I'm still in charge of the clock. I've never had a head coach kind of tell me, hey, you're not calling timeouts. Like you got to understand when you're in a good play, when you're in a bad play, when you need to burn a timeout. There's going to be, like I said, a learning curve in this thing to where, hell, I know I'm not going to be perfect. There's going to be mess ups. But I think every coach is going to go through that this year, trying to figure out this punt deal, this field goal deal, even from a defensive side of things, right? Because there might be times in a 2-minute that you might want them to have to go for it from a longer distance. So you got to burn a timeout, or you might want them to punt. So then you have to burn a timeout, or you don't. It's just different. It's not normal football. So there's going to be some quirks in this deal that are going to be a learning experience for everybody. But I really don't see a ton of difference from how I've always done it throughout my career, from preparing our offensive game plan. Like, you talk to any of my OCs, I don't care if I was the backup or the starter, I'm coming in with 9 million ideas, and then we take what we want and kind of break it down and come up with our best game plan. So it's the same way. You know, I'm involved in all this, and me and Siski and our quarterbacks, along with our offensive staff, kind of put this whole thing together and come up with what we think's best, and then kind of lay the chips out there and see where we are at the end of it.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
So, you know, he doesn't really pull any punches. He knows it's going to be a learning curve. I want to play one more where he talks about the week 1 prep. There was another question his way, and courtesy of the UFL. Here's what he had to say.
As always, curious to get some insight on how you're preparing for this game against the Kings, where Chris Redman's never coached, Steve Logan hasn't coached in a long time, Jamie Sharper hasn't been a defensive coordinator. How do you kind of prepare when there's not a whole lot of film to go off of here in camp?
You close your eyes and hope for the best. No, I mean, listen, it's tough. You kind of really just try to guess and take the 2 joint practices, and then it's a guessing game from there. I mean, it's going to be that way for a lot of guys that have new staffs, and you're not really sure what they're going to do. So I think it's more than anything, the first game comes down to, all right, can you take care of the football? Can you not hurt yourself? Can you not have stupid penalties where you're false starts, offsides, bad holding calls, defensive pass interference when it's obvious? Like, it's little things like that you can control. And if you can take care of the football, and then the other biggest thing is tackling. I mean, it comes down to, I think when you look at any level, whether it's high school, college, NFL, here, the teams that can tackle the best and make those tackles are also successful in those probably first 3 games, when guys are trying to get used to, playing with live bullets. So I don't, James, to be honest with you, I don't know. I mean, you try to do the best you can. And even if it's running your base stuff, but, you have answers for any coverage, and then it's the guys understanding what their tools are in the toolbox, and then communication on the sideline or during the play, and facing different coverages during, throughout camp, and understanding, hey, this is versus this coverage. We have to run the route this way versus this other. It's, it changes. So,
and that was really, the way AJ responded to that question is kind of the way Coach Neuheisel, and we'll get into more of that when we cover the Dallas-Houston game. But you're heading into a game of a lot of unknowns. And that's what's going to make week 1 kind of up for grabs for any of our games we've got going on. So, what do you think of his comments, Brett? With him being a new coach, you think he's coming from the right direction, or did you?
I mean, it makes me uneasy, but it's exactly what we. Yes, it's what we thought. I mean, he's going to be learning on the fly just like 3 other coaches. He's definitely long-winded, which reminds me of Coach Holtz. You remember Skip Holtz? You'd ask him a question, and 5 minutes later, you're still getting an answer. So I kind of thought that was funny. It reminded me of Skip. Look, AJ's been coached by the best. Go ahead and take a shot. I mean, he was coached by Nick Saban, the GOAT. Everybody take your shot. But no, in all seriousness, you think that an environment like this with so many new coaching staffs that DC would have the big time advantage with everyone coming back. But there again, just about every team they play this year, they don't have a clue what they're going to do. You know, they don't know what Louisville's going to do. They don't know what St. Louis is going to do. They don't know what Birmingham's going to do. Is Beck going to be different than Orlando? What is Ginn with Columbus going to do? So many unknowns, which I think is leading up to the anticipation of the kickoff of the season.
Yeah, it's I'll have to. What's funny is it doesn't matter who the coach is; they all hold things close to the heart. They don't want to divulge too much information. So you'll get a kick out of this next one. He was asked if he was prepared to name a starter quarterback, and here's what he had to say. It won't take long.
The quarterbacks. Are we going to have to wait until March 27th at 8 p.m. Eastern to know who the starter is, or will you be naming that this week?
Yeah, Maddie's our starter.
And that's all I got to say about that.
It was funny because, you know, I think James thought that he was gonna talk a little bit more after he said that, and this is what he heard afterwards. And it was like 5 or 10 seconds of total crickets. And it's like, okay, then next question.
Anything else?
So, man, they haven't. It's finally warming up. It took them a while to stop. They were more than willing to keep going.
I think my question of the hour for AJ would be, did he make the call, or did their OC or someone else in his coaching staff make the call to pick up Donovan when Houston released him? Because you got to wonder, was that just him paying attention to what Birmingham went through last season? Or was that one of the coaches going, hey, AJ, we're a little gun shy here. We had some QB depth problems last year.
Yeah.
We might want to pick up one more guy.
Yeah.
Because they're the
Man,
only
I think we
team
had
to my knowledge
7
that has-
starters last year if AJ wasn't paying attention.
They're the only team right now with 4 QB depth. And I mean, it contextually, all you can do is look back at last year to kind of justify that. So it was just funny. It made me chuckle when I saw them pick him up today.
But, you know, and that, me being a defensive guy, that once again, that concerns me when you have a offensive minded head coach. Because you know me, what I would have done with an extra roster spot is I'd have beefed up that defensive line. And that's the thing I'm worried about. So we'll see.
You can't segue any better into my next one, Brett. It's like I was over here just making hand motions to you to talk about the defensive line.
Pitching call.
I had a chance to talk to him about the defensive line. Here's what he had to say. They always say that games can be won and lost in the trenches. What are your initial thoughts on your defensive line going into the season, and who do you see that could be a real difference maker and cause a lot of havoc?
Well, Ed, I can't give you all the secrets, but all I can say is because once I do it and you do a great job of fucking reporting for Bottom Line, then all of a sudden Louisville starts figuring out, hey, we need to focus on this guy. So, but listen, I think we have a ton of playmakers up front, to be honest with you. I mean, that's how we built this roster. Not only going to get guys that can make plays out wide, but we really focused on the interior part. From an offensive standpoint, we wanted big fellas up front that can move D linemen, that can set the tone. And then we wanted D linemen that were able to play multiple positions, right? Whether they're playing a shade, whether they're playing a 2-eye, whether they're a 4-eye, or they can bump out all the way to a 5 technique. Like, we wanted guys that are very versatile and that can play multiple spots, and I think we have that. I'm excited for this group. I mean, we have guys that are hungry on the D line, that have something to prove. We have guys that were playing in the CFL arena, like guys that have been, whether you want to say overlooked or just not found yet. And I think we have a couple of those guys that are going to be considered diamonds in the rough, to be honest with you. And I'm super excited to watch these guys go work because I'm tired of practicing against them. They've caused us some issues throughout this camp, and it'll be fun to watch them hopefully cause issues for other teams.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck this week.
Thanks.
If AJ and Chris Redmond had to metaphorically represent any other game, it would be a game of poker, and they'd be both like this.
Yeah. It could get wild and woolly Friday night. I mean, it's like we don't have a clue.
He didn't want to
What's
give the other
gonna happen?
a coach like an inch of advantage strategically. It's like playing chess over checkers or something. I love it.
Yeah, it's invaluable to be able to attend these pressers, and I thank the UFL for giving us the opportunity to do it, because to peel back the curtain and talk to these coaches and kind of find out what their mindset is. I mean, it's something that just as normal fans like us going to the games, we don't ever get to hear what goes on behind the scenes and what they're thinking and how they put their roster together and just the initial, just general mindset. So it's, I can't wait for the games to start to where we can start throwing the questions at them too, picking their brains of why did you do that and why did you do that. The problem is if you won the game, you're going to get a 3-minute AJ answer. If you're talking to the coach who lost that week, you're liable to get that 12-second name their starting quarterback and shut their mouth, But no, I mean, just like today with Coach Neuheisel, listening to his preparation and then listening to some of the players talk and stuff, it's just invaluable. But I did notice one of the players on the Birmingham Stallions, a free safety, Lucas Dennis, he was a former Battlehawk. So he was asked about the transition of going from St. Louis to Birmingham. And if it clicks, I'm going to play it. Here we go.
Hey, Lucas, how's it going? Yeah, so coming from the Battlehawks, being familiar with Coach McCarron and all, what's it like coming now to the Birmingham Stallions and not competing against folks like Deion Kane and Marlon Williams, but actually being on the same team with those guys?
Absolutely. It's been great. Some of these guys we played against a lot against in the prior seasons, and just being able to work with them now and understanding parts of their game. And obviously we all learn from each other, whether that's, splits and how we see the game. The communication has been through the roof, and everyone's been really helpful towards each other, just trying to make sure that we're the best unit that we can be. Obviously this is a great organization, history of winning multiple championships. So I'm just glad to be here.
Very good.
So, yeah,
he just wanting to come to Birmingham and get one of them rings.
Yeah, he was one of those that I hated to see go. I mean, St. Louis took it hard in the defensive backfield when it come to losing guys to other teams in the draft. So
yeah,
he was one of the good ones we lost. So you're going to like him, Brett. That's for sure.
Yeah, I like the way he talks. He seems like a sharp kid. I'm excited to have him.
So we talk about as we talk about players that for Louisville got a new coaching staff. Louisville loses one of their premier receivers they have on their roster. What do you think are the keys to Louisville? And Brett Bings, you're a Birmingham fan. I'll let you go first, and I'll let KJ weigh in on the backside. Well, if you were Louisville, what do you think you would be going into this game trying to accomplish?
Well, first things first, just put some doubt in the Birmingham players' mind. I mean, Birmingham's favorite. You know, I know players look at that. They see those things. And some of them pay attention, some of them don't. I mean, Birmingham's the favorite to win the league this year. Birmingham's favorite Friday night. Same old thing is they're going to come out and try to pop Birmingham square in the mouth. And all of a sudden, you know, Birmingham's down 7-10 points. That's getting out to a quick lead and having that big crowd that's going to be vocal, it's going to be wild, it's going to be a neat atmosphere, you know, and it can really snowball on Birmingham. And in turn, Birmingham needs to just, in my opinion, first quarter, just hold on. Now, if you get a play action bomb and get an early lead and quiet the crowd, you know, but if they can hold on the first quarter, that will be key for Birmingham. And I really think Louisville needs to take advantage of the crowd and the momentum and the excitement and try to jump on Birmingham early. That'll be key for both teams, in my opinion.
KJ?
Yeah, I mean, looking at the rosters and such, I preferentially would give the nod to Birmingham, but I think to Brett's point, the Louisville fan base would be smart to maximize the home field advantage as much as possible. You know, it's where you can really shake up a team mentally, and they can make the, you know, a small venue like that joint feel like a bounce house if they're loud enough, and, you know, work in rhythm, if you will, so to speak, to really jar the offense when Birmingham's out on the field and trying to drive down the field, that sort of thing. Biggest thing I look at with Louisville, I feel like, is while the home field advantage is theirs, I honestly think their margin for error is less. And I only say that because when I look at their roster, there's less number of playmakers that just visually stand out to me, guys that I can recognize off the rip, scrolling through, that I know from last season, whatever, regardless of what team they come from. The one biggest thing in their cap, if you will, I would say for Louisville's side, is I feel like they have the most – if you compare their trenches side by side against Birmingham's, I think Louisville actually has the more cohesive trench because they've got so many returning showboats guys who literally were in the same locker room together last season. So if you look at your offensive line, for instance, as a single cohesive unit, if those guys are already in tandem because they worked with each other all through, you know, holistically last season, so to speak, you've got a greater chance of lacking issues occurring with, you know, missing blocks, whatever it may be, versus a new roster built, you know, O-line that guys coming from multiple teams, even if they're good, who just may not be fully in sync with one another. So I think from Louisville's standpoint, if they can really establish dominance in the trenches up front, establish a running game that makes them multifaceted, because let's face it, they've got three quarterbacks that are not, you know, previous UFL guys. I know some of them may have play experience, but a lot of them are, you know, younger college dudes too. You don't want to put it all on your QB's shoulders off the rip to start the game to have to carry the whole team. It doesn't bode well over the course of 4 quarters. So I think Louisville needs to establish a truly dual threat setup to keep Birmingham's defense on their toes, and that'll be honestly their biggest source of success to potentially win the game long term. That's just my opinion.
And Coach Redmond, in one of his press conferences that we got to sit in on, made the comment that the way that the seating is in that stadium, every seat in the house is going to really be able to hear the quarterback his cadence, just like he was sitting next to him. So if they're able, like you said, if they're able to push the right buttons, if the things start falling their way and they can get the momentum early and you know, will it snowball? I guess we'll see. But Marty put a comment up here, Brett, that I'll read you. He said, "Hey Ed, get Brett to tell you what I told AJ that the Birmingham Stallions at the Birmingham Stallions gathering this past Friday."
Marty, that was Friday. Tonight is Wednesday. I can't remember what I ate for lunch. I mean, you might as well tell him because I ain't got a clue. If you held a gun in my head, I couldn't remember.
So Marty's gonna have to put that in the line. So yeah, I mean, there's going to be that first quarter is going to be interesting. I mean, there might be a couple possessions each, depending on how the teams start. But I'm sure they're going to be trying different things, different coverages, all you name it, just trying to see what sticks. And a lot of the questions to these players is, leading up to week one in your game preparation, there really, isn't any film to watch. So, what do you do? I mean, how do you prepare? And they basically just all said, do you work on your own craft? You work on doing the things right, the things that got you there, and
adjust on the fly.
Adjust on the fly. So here's what Marty says. I told him that if he really wanted to get butts in the stadium, that he needed to invite Nick Saban to watch him and coach a couple games.
Yeah, and Nick and AJ are close, and I would not say that's not a possibility. I know Nick is very busy, and he's got a vacation place in Georgia, and he's on the Lake Tuscaloosa all the time. But then he's got a place in Florida now.
All it takes is one visit.
Don't put it past him. That would not surprise me to see Saban up in the press box or one of the suites for one of the games.
So with Eric not here yet, he was going to be on the screen, but my guess is that if I'm a turkey in Nebraska, I'm hiding right now because there's a truckload of completely insane hunters heading that direction, that even though they're using bow and arrow and they can't use guns, bow and arrows are just as deadly. So hopefully Eric will be able to join us. But having said that, I would rather wait to give our official predictions till the end. So in case he jumps on, then all four of us will be here to do each game. So we'll just have that conclude our official preview of the kickoff game of the week, Birmingham at Louisville, Friday night at 7:00. The next game coming up is Saturday morning at 11:00. And if it's anything like Brett's power rankings, this is a week one matchup of number 1 versus number 2. And my guess is, I got nothing but respect for DC's coaching staff. Coach Shannon Harris, Fred Keiss. Fred listened to our show a little bit last year. I was hoping to get him on at some point. I'd love to have a chance to pick his brain. And Blake Williams, that took over as defensive coordinator for his dad, who was originally defensive coordinator for here in St. Louis when the Rams were still in town. But they've definitely got the advantage, DC does, from a coaching staff perspective. And it doesn't just stop there. I mean, they've got their returning quarterback, Jordan Ta'amu, back. And he's been with them now. He started off as a Battle Hawk in 2020. Now he's been with DC now for the 23, 24, and 25 seasons. So he's a mainstay. And if anybody knows anything about Jordan Ta'amu, he loves playing in the Battle Dome. He's had some of his biggest games in St. Louis. So it's going to be imperative that St. Louis be ready to play ball, or else I have a feeling that they're going to fill the ball. They're going to fill the air with footballs and see if they can't put the knockout punch in pretty early on St. Louis. I know they played St. Louis in the playoff game last year in the first round and pretty much handed St. Louis good butt whooping. So it's been really fun to see these two teams go back and forth with their jabs. You know, they've posted on Facebook and X and you name it. St. Louis does a jab where, you know, Keem Butler comes on and basically says that he's enjoyed owning DC. Well, he's been with the Battlehawks. And then, of course, you have Coach Shannon Harris come on, and he's doing a commercial basically advertising Audi West, where they play their games in St. Louis. So, I mean, it's a good-natured back and forth. I don't think they worry anymore about bulletin board material, because once the helmets flew, their first meeting in DC in 23, I think it was always going to be one of the best rivalries in the UFL, and I look for only more of the same. Looking forward for Chris Tisdale. He's coming to my tailgate on Saturday morning. I'll thank him again for all of his tears that he's been doing for us. Can't think of a better way to thank him than hand him a Bloody Mary and give him a few of those big ass breakfast burritos. But guys, what are your initial thoughts? We'll start with KJ first this time. What do you look at this game as maybe some of the keys to know which team's going to be able to come out on top?
I mean, I'm just interested to see the overall schematic in which St. Louis comes out with. We've already, kind of covered their roster and feeling like they're pretty well manned. I'm definitely will be, cheering on indirectly Silvers, being an ex-Houston guy from years past playing for us. I've always been a fan of his since the AAF days. I think for me, honestly, as much as I'll be hoping that he has a good, productive game, I mean, my mindset just leans more to having the expectancy to just have another almost reoccurrence of last season. But I think St. Louis, even though they got the home field advantage, are really going to have to come out and be ready to play again. This is kind of almost an echoing of the Louisville game in the sense that even though they've got the home field advantage, I mean, we saw, in my opinion, last season in the playoffs, what little effect that had. I mean, there was probably an impact to some degree, but what was it, third quarter, I think, when DC started to pull away last year. I don't know. I think it's going to come down to positional matchups. I definitely concur with a lot of what Chris shared in his wide receiver markup for, giving so much credit to the DC core. St. Louis secondary is going to have to be on point for this game, or it will get away from them fast. Ta'amu, while maybe he doesn't have the, most pristine completion percentage in the entire league, he's just one of those quarterbacks that can be very clutch when he needs to be at all the right critical moments. And so that's the thing that I think St. Louis will have to be most up on their toes about defensively, is to continually work to keep the game within reach, even if they're down, not allow that to mentally psych them out, and that sort of thing. There's really no question about the St. Louis home crowd. They're always the most dominant in the league. They'll show up, obviously having the biggest venue goes without saying. Yeah, that would be my, I guess, synopsis of what I would suspect to be the most critical points of the game is St. Louis's defense coming to play. And then obviously, leave it to Silvers and the rest of the St. Louis Battlehawks group to, sling the ball around, mix it up, and keep DC's defense on their toes correspondingly so that they can make some magic happen and get points on the board.
As we talk about, AJ Smith being the new offensive coordinator for St. Louis, I'm really interested to see how the offense is going to change. And, the best way to take a crowd out of a game is a lack of excitement. And my whole problem with the last 3 years in St. Louis is when you have a head coach with the mentality of a run first, pass when you have to, and hope for the best in the fourth quarter, it doesn't lend to really getting the crowd involved in the game. I got to believe that if AJ Smith, Ricky Prohl, Ricky's sons got the wide receiving core, that they're going to try and attempt to put the ball in the air and put up some quick points. And it's something that the fan base has not seen in St. Louis. So if it happens and they can whip that crowd up into a frenzy in the first quarter, look out. We could definitely be the 12th man that Seattle Seahawks are always talking about. What do you think, Brett?
I think it's a really, really, really big game for St. Louis for a number of reasons. Right now, DC's got the drop on St. Louis. St. Louis just cannot seem to get over the hump in the dome against DC. And I think the only way that they can do that Saturday is to, like you said, they need to open it up. Because Pearson's a very tough cover and Butler's almost impossible to cover. So I expect Silvers to have a big game. I think it's going to go back and forth. And you will, again, think you're going to see two of the playoff teams battle it out in St. Louis Saturday morning. I can't wait. Something tells me, I think it's time for St. Louis to kind of get a little revenge on DC. The fans, the players, the coaches, they seem a little too cocky in DC. It might be time for them to, every so often you need to get knocked on the ass to realize, I might not be unbeatable. Ask Mike Tyson with Buster Douglas.
Yeah, I know this guy here. He's one of my brothers, man. He's been a season ticket holder just as long as I have, and he's already labeled it, man. Air Prohl coming to St. Louis. That's what the fan base wants to see. So I just hope they can deliver, because if they can, that place is going to be rocking. That's for sure.
Yeah. You got to hope that Blake Williams has done his homework in this week or two leading up to the game and has been watching nothing but Houston Roughnecks 2023 highlight reels, because that's, if you want to know what AJ Smith and a Brandon Silvers unite looks like, that's the textbook example.
Yep. And I guarantee you he's watched all that film.
One suggestion, please. JPZ. Slants, please. At least 2-3 slants. I know that we couldn't spell a slant last year. Look who comes from the brush. Corn Shucker Land, where all the turkeys are shaking their legs right now, wondering what the hell's going to be unleashed tomorrow.
I asked Eric, what's going to happen when those turkeys start getting involved with AI and they start shooting back? Then what?
This is definitely a remote location.
Looks like you're in county jail, bud.
Yes. Well, I got to try to keep it simple, man. I got to hold on to this phone, so I'm shaking. Nothing I can do about it. Nothing I can do.
We've already done the Birmingham Louisville matchup. We've already done the St. Louis DC matchup. We're saving our predictions to the end because we was hoping you would be on by then. So we're going to let you chime in on our next game. The Houston Gamblers, 3:00 Saturday afternoon head into Dallas to play them there Renegades. We're gonna let KJ. I'm not gonna say a word. We're gonna let KJ take it from here because it's, I've always said Houston, if they could figure out the recipe from the 2020 season and figure out, what it's like to start 5-0 instead of always.
Two can tango with that, Brett. We want to play that game.
I like that logo.
So KJ, give me your keys to Houston coming out on top.
Man, biggest one for Houston, establish the run and finish strong when you're in the red zone. Looking back to seasons like 2024, that was probably our biggest Achilles heel. We had the dominated defense. We had power in the trenches on defense, at least. But when it came to offense, often our quarterback would be running for his life. And with that came a lack of an ability to establish a dependable run game. So I think if they can do that, if one of our running backs can make standout play, and then I think it's going to come down to play calling. And that's a kind of a cop-out statement to make, but I think it really is true when you look at the roster we have. I think the game is ours to lose, at least when I look at it on paper. Between the two squads, I think we have the nod, if you will, from a personnel standpoint. But obviously you have to put those parts and pieces in the right places and schematically lay them out correctly with good play calling and schemes to throw off your opposing team that you're playing. Playing Dallas, we're not in that situation where we have the luxury of playing a green thumb coach. We're actually probably playing the most, I'd argue, seasoned coach in the league, aside from maybe DC's guy. But I don't know. I'm not too worried about it being a road game for us. It's more of just my concern with Sumlin and whoever if he's calling plays himself, if he's leaving it to the OC to do that. That'll be the question mark. What turns out on the field.
Leave it to John David to send the volley Eric's way. Eric,
John David hadn't said anything all night.
Eric, you don't show up for the Iowa State last weekend, and now you aren't showing up for the first Battlehawks game.
That's not technically true. He was throwing shit at Houston from the get-go, but we won't go there. So.
So anyway, at the press conference today with Coach Neuheisel, he of course named his starting quarterback as Austin Reed. I think he knew that was going to be to catch everybody by surprise, but he went on to say that of course Luis Perez was disappointed, but Coach Neuheisel really wanted to see what Austin Reed had. He said he really thinks that Austin Reed can be special. So he said that, probably chances are both quarterbacks will play in the game, but that he wanted Austin Reed to be the starter to see how that went. So what do you think, Brett? Is that a shocker to you? I know how you answered when I put it on chat today. You had some pretty big words for that.
I was surprised by it, and then I saw the Gridiron podcast that posted in the UFL fans group earlier about it. Said he wanted Stoops back. I can't believe that Luis Perez isn't starting. You know who I'm talking about? Our old buddy.
Yeah, it's funny because, I had an ongoing feud about him, especially when he started, what was it, the season before last? He started 0-5 or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was, I think I did reels every week saying, well, he's 0-2, 0-3, 0-4, 0-5. So, but anyway, you got
to give Neuheisel credit. That was a ballsy move.
Well, a new
who called that, Brett? Who called that, Brett?
I don't recall.
2 weeks ago.
I think that was KJ or maybe it was Ed.
Yeah. 2 weeks ago, I said, watch out for Reed. Watch out for him. No, I was even surprised by the fact that he's not starting Perez. I didn't make that call.
Yeah.
But what I
Right.
say, I said, watch out for him.
Yeah.
And now he's
Yeah,
starting.
I was surprised he didn't start Perez, but I still think we'll see Perez. But there again, we might not. We'll it's just hard to believe we'll go through a spring season without seeing Luis Perez. But if this kid ends up being the next coming of Teyamu or Luis Perez or whoever, do we see a trade? Is Perez traded to a team that really has a quarterback issue? That'll be interesting.
So Marty puts on here, Ed, I thought you said Eric was hunting. Looks to me like he's at home. Don't let Eric's backdrop confuse you. I'm sure they're all sitting on the bed in a hotel room, shining their guns, getting their shell. Or no, you can't use guns this time, can you? You're using arrows.
Bow hunting. Yeah.
So if you see an arrow go
Yep.
sloosh by a screen, you'll know they're practicing on the hole.
I'm actually.
I hope you
I'm
paid in
actually in
cash
the very
and give them a
middle-
major credit card.
I'm actually right smack dab in the middle of Nebraska at a buddy's place.
So
yeah.
One of the things that Coach Neuheisel was really frustrated about, and I could really tell, he said it's not bad enough that you just go through a difficult week where you cut your roster down to 50. Now this week they have to go ahead and tell 7 more players out of those 50 that they're on the inactive list, that they only let 43 players be active for the game. He said, that's, if there's one rule that he would want to change in the league on day one, it's if you got a 50-man roster, give all 50 guys a chance to put tape together to get to that next level. So, he said even as far as he was concerned, even if it took a pay cut, that was one of the first things he'd like to see the league do, was allow all 50 players instead of cutting it down to 43 on that first week.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let them play, dress them out.
Yeah, I asked him also, if with lack of film on Houston, if he was going to be, what kind of time the coaching staff was putting in as far as game planning for the new rules with the 4-point field goal and the no punting inside the 50. And probably his biggest takeaway from that was that the mentality that the coaching staff was going to have to realize that once you're inside the 50, a third down play is not necessarily a winner take all to try and get a first down. That suddenly, once you're in 4-down territory, third down becomes second down, and fourth down. No longer do you have to try and get it all in one chunk. You can use third and fourth down to chip away at it. So he says it's really a new mentality that, he's going to have a good, he's going to have to stay on his coaching staff to realize that, once you cross the magic 50, that your mentality has to change somewhat as far as play calling and everything. So what else do we have?
think about this. What if you got 3rd and 5 from the 45 and you take a 15-yard loss?
The one thing I did get clarification on the rules is they're only going to allow the ball to be snapped so far back. So in other words, the rule of thumb has always been the holder's always 7 yards behind the long snapper on a field goal. That if it's going to be a 49-yard field goal, they're not going to let that holder go back another yard so that it makes it a longer field goal. And so I think they're trying to think through the situations, but like I told you, I think that they're going to find, whether it's going to be week 1 or whenever, that they're going to need rule clarifications, because nobody wants to see the ball get hiked to the quarterback, only to see the quarterback turn around and throw the ball backwards out of bounds so that you instantly lose 5-10 yards without anything really coming off the clock. So, I mean, will they make clarify the rules as they go, or will they let it play out and do it after the season? I would think you almost have to do it after the season, but I think there's definitely going to be flaws with and then again, like I said, you cross the 50-yard line, you get down to the 47, now you're in 4-down territory, you get a holding penalty, you get a false start penalty, so suddenly you're on your own 40-yard line or whatever, and your offense isn't doing very good at moving the ball. Well, suddenly you're in 4th down and you're in your own territory and you can't punt the ball. So, I mean, it really lends to really putting defenses in a pretty precarious position. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out in week 1. I mean, do you guys agree? I mean, the last thing we want to see, especially in week 1 on TV, is some scenarios that play out that kind of make it look a little hokey. So with that said, any closing comments on DC and Houston before we go to our last game of the week? If
I mean,
not,
Dallas and Houston.
what did I say?
DC.
Oh, damn. Well, maybe I wish they would play Dallas. So the final game of the weekend, Sunday night prime time in Orlando. The Columbus Aviators come to town. Coach Beck has been on social media really hyping the game up, really trying to get the fans to come out for this game. And I don't know how many Orlando fans we have watching tonight, but I will say, get ready, Orlando, for the ground and pound, bend but don't break, and see where the cards fall with 2 minutes left in the game is most likely how that Orlando game is going to go. Who wants to take that game away? Eric, you want to start off first?
Well, I think, we're obviously very familiar with Coach Beck's philosophy.
Eric, we can't hear you.
You're cutting out.
I'm having problems audio-wise. I'm going to have to jump off.
Yeah, he's having problems. So Brett, let's start off with you. Go ahead.